I hope I'm not outing you very much, but I remember one time we had a conversation about teaching, and you said something to the effect of like the other day you had a student that came up and they were kind of, I can't remember if it was a guy or a girl, but you're kind of explaining that they can't kind of came up. Well, I didn't have this and I didn't really get this done. So I have like a 8 year extension on this, and you're like, hell no, like
No.
you like, and I thought that was really funny that you took that, that's great, that you were that the kind of kids today, because now with the responsibility and taking accountability, it's too bad because from what I understand, obviously people have wanted to lie and not take accountability forever. I mean, it's been whatever, but it seemed like there was a lot more societal like pressure on that, to with two parent households and communities holding everybody accountable. And now I guess my question is, have you seen more of the blamey stuff recently with your job, or like with I'm talking about the kid, your students? Have you noticed any like differences between your students before in the last couple years,
Since the
or
pandemic?
no? Well, just in the last, I don't know, 10 years or what, I'm asking
Students
like
are students.
yeah, I'm asking like
Student-
10 questions. At the
Okay,
same time,
well, no,
but,
that's
yeah.
okay. But students are students. You've got some students that are there for the right reason. Okay? And those students, I feel hopeful. Because when I'm in my wheelchair or in my nursing's bed, I know that life is good. Those students will be responsible. But then, there has been a dumbing down of America, a deep dumbing down of America. And education is no longer valued. If it were, I would not be a reading coordinator in a community college. How do you graduate from high school and you're not able to read or write? A lot of politicians, a lot of parents, a lot of people believe it's okay to be stupid. There has been a major dumbing down. Europe, other countries are kicking our behind. Our kids are lacking. I don't care what school district it is, because I teach students from Blue Valley, from Blue Springs, whose parents wanted them to go to an Ivy League school and they weren't prepared. The fact that kids have to take reading and writing in a community college, or they go to a 4-year school and they cannot critically think, they cannot comprehend, that should be everyone's concern. I remember when I was the manager at AT&T and we would interview students right out of college, graduated from 4-year school. They're coming in at a $60,000, $70,000 a year job with benefits, with matching retirement. They look like they just got out of bed. When I ask them, and the managers will come in and say, Miss Miller, you got to come in and see this kid. And I go in and sit in a corner. When the question was asked, what are your strengths? That's simply a question about what you do well. What are your opportunities? What do you need to work on? I do everything well. I don't need to work on anything. And then their phone would go off and they'd answer it. That should be everyone's concern.
They're like, I'm a 10. No, you're not.
I'm not even a 10.
Yeah, right. Just as a person, I'm a 10, right?
Right.
There's nothing I need to work
Right.
on. I'm perfect. Like, yeah, that's.
I'm
wow.
I'm 3 times your age, and I work on myself every day. And you're telling me at 22 you're perfect? That is what we should be concerned about. Be that we are bringing children up that are not prepared.
I think that's the purpose of school, is to prepare you for adulthood. Obviously, I mean, and plus
It
parents
is.
and but it's like
It
to
is.
make you be a competent, critical
Responsible.
thinking, responsible adult. You
But
know, and
our politicians are not pushing that, because if you are not a smart person, then they can tell you anything and do anything. and we are in serious trouble. And I cry every time I get a student that gets it. I cry.
Pretty good feeling. Isn't
That
it?
is a great feeling because you know they're going to change the world. And I see a lot of students wanting their education and want to fight to make things right. And that
That's
to
awesome.
me is inspiring.
I've been trying so hard in my lessons to keep asking them questions. I think when I was a younger teacher, I was telling, and I now am. I try to, like, you know, I have a end goal of what I'm thinking in my head, like what they played, and it was, let's say it's rhythm or something, and
Right.
I'm trying to lead them to that, you know, which is not always good, but I'm trying to ask them questions first and go, what, like, how did you just play just now? You know, tell me
Right.
something good that you did, because you did do something good that you didn't do last week. You know,
Right.
let's point that out. You know, don't just go, oh, it sucked. You know, like, and
Right.
and make them, like, engage their brain to your critical thinking thing. You know, it's kind of little, but it's
No, it's not.
You
It's
know,
important because
Yeah.
now we have allowed kids to live in front of TVs
Mm.
and in front of video games. When I was a kid, I did go outside and play. I did go
Mm-hmm. I did
out
too, yeah.
until it was dark. I did create toys. I did play fantasy games. Now, you've got to get kids to think because they want you to tell them everything. They don't want to have to take the chance
yeah,
and do
yeah.
it themselves. They want you to tell them what they should do. And I'm not going to. You have to be the thinker. You have to make a decision. Make a decision, whether it's right or wrong. Make a decision. If-
I have this other student, this little girl. She's like 3rd or 4th grade, but the whole time she's, you know, while she's
Right.
playing, she's looking for affirmation. She's looking for, did I do it right? Did I do it? You know, like,
Right.
you can tell that that's what. And so a couple of times I go and stand behind her. I'm like, you don't get to look at me anymore. You need to be on your own and try this. Like, you know, you're in 3rd grade, but you're playing a song. You can handle this. You know, and then all of them, like, I can tell that they, when I've been asking them questions about how they just played, I'm like, okay, like, were you, you know, you were playing the stuff, and I know sometimes it's hard to listen to yourself because you're concentrating and stuff, but try, you know,
Right.
really think about what you're saying, think about what you're doing, like, and I've just been trying that recently, and I think it's working a lot because you're right, they want to be told. This is why
Right.
improv's been so hard for all my students. And that's what classical people don't like when I say that. I'm like, you're a follower in classical. And I'll say it again. You're a follower in classical. What do you wear to the concert? Well, tux. Even your literal outfit. Where are you sitting? 3rd chair. You're like, every single thing is told to you. And it's hard. You know, you have to play 30 years to get even into the symphony. But you're a follower in jazz. You're a leader.
You're right.
You know? And it's
You're-
just
and
a
in
different,
dance.
you know,
And in
dance with it.
dance.
Yeah.
In dance, because if they go to a club and they're freestyling, some of them are just not comfortable. You know?
When it's
But-
choreographed for them.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's easy. And in no way am I downing a classical player or a dancer, but
It's a different skill.
you got to take a
Yeah.
chance. You got to take a chance. And I tell my students, you got to take a chance. Life doesn't. It's not a cookie cutter. You have to take chances. Life is not going to be, they're not going to tell you in your life everything. You've got to think outside the box. You have to figure it out. And you have to understand that everyone has a story. Because you have students now, or people now, that will say, I got a lot going on in my life. Or, I didn't do this because. Or, I didn't do this because. My argument is, everybody has a story and they're dealing with something. Always remember, your story is no more important than someone else's. It isn't. I had a girl today. Well, I had to go to the dentist, and that's why I was late. So I'm giving you my, you know what I said? I said, I give everyone 6. You manage that number because your dental appointment is not any more important than that person that's taking care of their aging parent or their child, or they're on dialysis, or they're taking chemo. Everybody's got a story. Who am I to say yours is more important than theirs? I'm nobody.
They've asked so many. This is kind of a little bit off topic, but they've been asking. I've been watching all this dating stuff, and they're asking a lot of these women and men, like, what do you bring to the table? You keep saying you're a 10, and these people, like, they have such a entitlement.
Right.
So and that like, and then when you ask them, why is your dentist so much more and they literally can't even tell you.
They can't tell you.
But they just know it. They just know that I'm special, and I'm a 10, and
Right.
and that's
Sad.
certainly entitlement has, again, been one of those things that's been around forever with certain people, but I think there's a lot more of it now.
Right.
There's a lot
There
more
is.
of it, And they were saying that back, I was listening to this lady, Camille Paglia, but she was talking about back in the day, like my grandparents' generation, they grew, born in the Great Depression. They got through World War II, and then they had the whole 60s, which was just nuts. And so they've just been through a lot of stuff. And my parents' generation got to see that. And so they still, even though they were trying to, and that's one of the reasons why they coddled this generation, is because they didn't want their kids to have to go through that. But they sort of at least, she was joking that they saw the helmets and stuff in the garage, and they just had this sense of trial and tribulation more, because stuff was just way harder, back then, and now stuff's gotten a lot easier in a number of ways. It's gotten a lot harder in other ways too, but there's a lot of stuff that's way easier now, and so it's like, it's tough. I don't know what I guess so what we can stop them from, like, if you're a parent, you can not let them on a screen all day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like what I'm trying to think out what we can do about that.
Well, I think parents should be parents.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember my mom saying, "I'm your parent. I'm not your friend."
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you have kids having kids, or when you have, because there's no book on parenting.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that a lot of parents want to be liked.
Mm.
A lot of parents want to be liked. My parents didn't want to be liked. My parents wanted to be parents. Mm-hmm. They wanted to develop and raise responsible kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think more parents should admit that it takes a village to raise a kid, and to raise a child, and to raise little people. And I think that they should trust more the teacher. And that's one thing the pandemic has done. Whereas before, teachers were, oh my God, we had 3 heads and we were worthless. Well, then the pandemic came, and parents had to teach their children. They had to spend the day with their children. And they saw exactly, whether they admitted it or not, what teachers went through and the work the teachers did.
I'm starting to notice too with that in my dad, and I'm sure your parents or whatever, if something happened at school, my dad would go, "He did what?"
Exactly.
And
That's
they would be
what
like,
my parents
"What
would
the
do.
what the fuck are you?" And they would turn to the kid like, you did what? And now today they're like,
It's
well,
the teacher's fault.
yeah. And
It's the teacher's
they're
fault.
always on the kid's side today, and that's aggravating.
Oh, I could tell you stories
Yeah.
about parents that take their kids out of school for vacation, and parents that want their kids to get certain grades because they want them to go to certain schools. That's not parenting. Because at the end of the day, that child's going to break your heart. That's what's going to happen. Parents need to be parents. People need to be good role models. If we talk about bullying, that bullying is coming from somewhere, and many times a child is being bullied at home, or they see it at home, and they act it out at school, and it is a serious problem. Parents should be role models. People should be better role models. What kids see, they see adults acting out. How do you explain, for example, today we talked about Black Friday. This stuff for Black Friday is 2 or 3 years old, past seasons. People get equipment with not all the equipment in the box, a TV, a VCR, and you're willing to kill a guard or beat someone up for it. We have been dumbed down. We are not good role models for each other or for children. Children act out what they see adults doing. You go to a baseball game and see your child play, and because they didn't put them in, you want to beat up the coach, or you get into a fight with another parent.
Yeah, that's
this
nuts.
is not
Yeah.
good images for kids. It's not.